Hey, what's going on, everybody? Nick here, back with another lockdown fly tying video. This will be episode number 19, coming right along with these. So today I'm going to be tying up a topwater pattern to try out for albacore. I have a goal for this summer to catch an albacore on a fly cast popper. I've seen it done with big poppers tossed with spinning rods, but I've never actually attempted it with a fly rod. So it's been on my mind this winter. I've tied up, I haven't gone crazy. I've tied up a handful of big obnoxious poppers to try to get their attention. But today I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. When we're out there fishing albacore, we use live anchovies as chum. So when we're sitting on a drift and catching fish, presumably, either the captain or the deckhand is usually throwing out a few anchovies here and there to kind of keep that school of albacore interested at the boat. The goal is to basically get the fish to where they see the boat as a source of food, so they don't leave and you can just sit there and catch a bunch of them. And one thing that I've seen a lot, and it's always really cool to see, you'll throw some anchovies into the water, and one of them might be slightly injured. It's gotten beat up in the bait tank or whatever the case may be. Maybe it's getting sick, it's dying, whatever. And instead of hitting the water and swimming in under the water like normal bait fish, every now and then you'll see one that kind of just skitters along the surface. Oftentimes they kind of just swim in a big circle, kind of with their head almost out of the water. And albacore will come up and smash these things. I've seen it where albacore are chasing them and missing and hunting them down, and it's really, really neat. So I'm trying to tie a fly that might sort of mimic that. So I'm not really looking to tie a great big obnoxious popper that's going to make a huge disturbance. I'm thinking more along the lines of like a Miyawaki popper, which I guess isn't truly a popper. It's more of a slider, something that's just gonna create a V-wake and a little bit of a commotion, but it's not gonna be a great big enormous popper head. So I've got some of these big, I think this is Rainey's, no, this is Wapsie. These kind of slider type heads, and these ones are large enough that I think I could do what I want to do on a little bit bigger hook. So I'm just was tying up some poppers, and I had everything out, and instead of shifting focus and trying something different, I'm just gonna tie this one for today's video. I'm not entirely even sure how this is going to turn out. I'm not even entirely sure what I'm going to use to accomplish this. It's going to be fairly simple. I'm not a big believer that you need to go into a ton of detail on topwater stuff like this. Basically, you know, the fish see only the one side of it, and I think it's mostly the movement and the commotion that are probably attracting them, not necessarily all the fine detail that we as fly tyers like to focus on. So I've got a little bit of an idea in my head. Got some materials here. I might tie something on a hook and decide I don't like it and take it off and put something else in its place. But we'll just see how it goes. So I have in the vise a Kona big game carnivore hook in a 2/0. I really like their, I think it's just called big game hooks. They're a shorter shank. These carnivore hooks are a little longer shank, which I need basically in order to get this popper head on there. Otherwise I wouldn't have any room on the short shank hooks. I kind of mess with that, but you don't have any room to actually really tie anything on there. So I've got some Vivus 10/0 thread. Might be wondering why I use 10/0 thread on a giant hook and fly like this, and basically because I just find it works just as well. It doesn't build up a ton of bulk. You could certainly go up to a bigger thread, but I just never found it's necessary for most of this stuff. When I tie musky flies and things like that, I go to great big strong thread, mainly because I'm really cranking down on materials. But anyway, so I'm gonna start with some gray bucktail. I'm kind of trying to keep this in a little bit darker color, but basically to hopefully maybe mimic an anchovy. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this bucktail, and my thought with this is to just provide a little bit of support for the hackle feathers that I'm going to put on next at the tail. I don't know if that's even needed or not, but might help keep it from fouling up, or maybe help those hackles ride a little bit better. I don't know. But that's what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna tie this in right here towards the back of the hook. I want this thing to be like no more than about 5 inches. 4.5 inches would probably be about perfect. Anchovies that we get out there are generally not humongous, although occasionally, depending on what the bait dock has, sometimes they have some great big ones. So now I'm going to go with some hackle here. I've got a couple of white feathers. I think I'm going to do mostly grizzly, but I'm going to throw a couple of white ones in here just because why not? And I'm just kind of going to tie these in more or less deceiver style. So again, this is not a pattern that I've like practiced, or I'm just kind of winging it here, since this was supposed to be a rather informal video series. I'm okay with that. Couple of whites, and now we'll do some grizzly, and I'm going to do more grizzly than I did the white, I think, because I like that. I'm kind of tying these so that the feathers flay out rather than in, and this is all just in my head, but I like the thought of that. So I've got 4 grizzly feathers here. We'll try that. Get those good and secured. Let's see how big this head is. Even with this big long hook, this head's going to come pretty much almost all the way to where I have the tie-in point here, so definitely don't need to go super duper crazy with a bunch of materials. Now I've got some Krystal Flash. This is like a, I don't know what this color is called. It's like a black and silver almost, like a Grizzly Krystal Flash. I like this stuff quite a bit. Put it in a lot of anchovy patterns just because I think it looks pretty cool. Like I said, I have no idea how this is gonna fish. I don't know if the fish will even respond to it. I have a hunch they will when they're in the right mood. My guess is that this is gonna be something I would want to fish when fishing is good, when there's fish all around the boat and everything, obviously. But I'm thinking this will be like a flat water kind of a pattern. I think it would be kind of hard to see this thing if the swell is up or the wind chop is up or whatever. But it's all just in my head. I don't know. So I'm just gonna actually I think I'm gonna thin that a little bit, and I'm gonna tie this in on each side just for grins. So I've got chunk of Krystal Flash tied on the near side, folded over so that it comes down the far side as well. I don't really want it on top because it's probably not really going to be visible, I wouldn't think. Okay. I'm going to try a little bit of silver Reflector Flash here. Mainly I just want, the fish is kind of looking up, this thing is skidding along the surface. If it sparkles from below, I'm okay with that. I kind of want that, so I'm going to try this Reflector Flash and see how this looks. It might be, I don't know, might be going a little crazy here, but I've used this on some of my other popper patterns that I've tied with big gnarly popper heads. So, and since that popper head is going to come back just about to this tie-in point where I started with the bucktail, I'm not gonna do a ton of this, just enough. And when that gets wet, it should kind of slick back and down, and should be noticeable. Take those fibers and kind of work them back a little bit. It's always a kick in the pants to see the anchovies being chased by the albacore like that. I remember one day, maybe 3 years ago, when I was deckhanding still, and we had one of the most intense, wide open albacore bites I've ever seen. It only lasted maybe 20 minutes, but God, for those 20 minutes, those fish were just ravenous. And I remember in particular, I threw out a few chovies, and one was doing just a big circle, skittering around. And this one albacore must have tried to eat it 10 different times. It just kept missing. It would just circle and come up and destroy on it, and that stupid anchovy just kept making it, and then it finally got eaten. But me and the skipper I was working with, we were having a ball just watching that. It was pretty freaking awesome. So I think that's going to be it on the materials on this. There's really no need to go too crazy. I'm going to put this popper head on. So basically it's just when this gets wet, everything can kind of lay back. The hackle feathers should be kind of wobbling back there. It's got some white and grizzly color-ish, anchovy-ish. Who knows? I mean, this is all just in my head. So got this popper head here. I'm gonna put this on. I think I'm gonna use some of this liquid fusion glue. If it's open, the tip on this likes to get clogged up a lot. Just gonna put a pretty healthy amount of this on there. I don't want that popper head going anywhere. The one nice thing about fishing out there on the open ocean is that you're not banging your flies on rocks. You could bang them on the boat, I guess, but this is one of those slotted ones, so I want to make sure that I use enough glue that it's not going to go anywhere. I think I'm going to take some glue and kind of work it down into the slotted portion of this. And that's basically going to be it. Like I said, I don't want it to be obnoxious, because the fly fisherman in me is trying to actually imitate something that I've seen as far as the anchovies, and I do have much bigger poppers that I've been tying up this winter, just that are gonna more or less get attention by just virtue of being obnoxious. This isn't really gonna pop so much as it's just gonna slide and create a V-wake, just like a Miyawaki popper. And I imagine that I would kind of fish it in a similar fashion, just sliding that thing along while the fish are feeding, and hopefully one of them thinks this thing is an anchovy and gobbles it. Who knows if that's going to be the case, but pretty easy to tie, kind of fun to do something a little bit different. So there you go. Maybe you guys aren't going to be tying these ones up and adding a few to your box. Maybe you could tie it in a smaller version and try it for sea run cutthroat or some other pattern. But this is what I was tying this morning, so this is what today's video is. If this thing turns out to work, I will be sure to post about it somewhere. But there you go. Try to add a few to your box. And as always, thanks for watching.